This conference will now be recorded.
I tend to do that, don't I, Megan? Forget. So, what did you think about chapter 2? Did you like it? I mean, I like it. It's one of my favorites. Well, but then I say that about every chapter, I think. I like it. I like it because it is so important to knowing what your partner's needs are so that you can meet those needs is so important. So any comments about chapter 2 before we move on to chapter 3? Did you like it? You didn't like it? It was too much? It was not enough? It was
better than the first chapter.
What, Elizabeth?
But it was better than the first chapter, in my opinion.
Good. You liked it better. Good. Okay. Well, I hate to say this, but I also need to say this to warn you about chapters 3 and chapter 4. They're going to be harder. They're the two hardest chapters, in my opinion. But they are probably the most important chapters in this whole book. And chapter 3 is entitled, What's Filling Your Emotional Cup? And it's all about, if you take a look at page 18, it's all about the fact that things happen in life, you know, especially in a marriage relationship where you're with each other day in, day out, hour after hour after hour. You're with one person, and conflict is inevitable. Friction is inevitable, and so it's what you do with that conflict, what you do with that friction, that is extremely important. And so we're going to learn in chapters 3 and 4 how to deal with it. That is going to be just it's. I think when you get through chapter 4, you're going to get to at the end of chapter 4, you're going to say, well, that was hard, but it is refreshing. It is really good that we had to go through that. So I ask all of you a question at this point now. I'm assuming that that first of all, let's go into the assumption that none of us are perfect. Okay, we all make mistakes. Now, the question I want to ask you, let me see how I want to phrase that, is, has your partner ever made a mistake or hurt you or hurt your feelings in such a way? Now, I know the answer to that thus far is yes, but I'm going to continue on in such a way that it was pretty hard to forgive. And it even might be to the point where it still hurts because you still think about it. Anybody say yes to that question? Okay. Let's say maybe you do, maybe you don't. On page 18 is this thing called an emotional cup. And looking at that cup, if you look at the bottom of the cup, okay, we're going to say that this cup, except for the top rung where it says positive emotions, is a building block, okay? So that, in other words, the bottom rung is hurt, sadness, and disappointment, which causes anger and resentment, which causes fear, anxiety, and insecurities, which causes guilt and then condemnation. Okay? Now, when you've got all of these things going on in your relationship, hurt, sadness, disappointment, anger, resentment, fear, anxiety, insecurities, guilt, and condemnation, there's not much room left for positive emotions, like joy, love, affection, romance. Can you imagine that when couples get divorced, that the reason they get divorced is because there's friction, there's hurt, there's anger, there's resentment, fear, anxiety, guilt, condemnation, and they don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. So it's time to throw in the towel. Okay? That's what happens to couples if they don't take these things and do something about them. They don't take these hurts and do something about them. Possible symptoms of a cup that is full with all those negative things, starting on the left-hand side, is physical side effects such as sleep, appetite disturbances. My wife and I, Carla and I, know a couple. We've known them for probably, well, she knew them probably about a year or two before we got married, and then I met them. So we've been married now for almost 41 years. So we've known them for a long time. She was at one point in time Miss Carson City. In other words, she was a very pretty lady, and but the two of this couple, they are constantly bickering, and every time they bicker, they never give up. They never give in. They never come to any kind of compromise. It always ends up in a big argument. It's bicker, bicker, bite, bite, bite. It's like, if one of them says black, the other one says, no, it's white. I mean, that's how bad it is. Every time one of them says something, the other one has to correct the other person. And so we have watched them over the years gain weight. They eat because they have no other way of coping with what they're doing to one another. They've taken this class 5 times in the past 20 years. And every time they get to chapters 3 and 4 and they quit. The last time was probably the worst. When she, the female, every time she opened her mouth, she had something negative to say about her husband. And we don't want that to happen during this class. It's not that kind of class. I kept telling her, you're very negative. You're very negative. You need to think positive thoughts. Quit thinking all these negative thoughts. And it finally got to the point after 4 or 5 times of telling her, she'd open her mouth and something negative would come out. And I'd tell her over and over and over again. Finally got to the point where she said, well, of course I'm negative. Because I feel like he was at one point in time he was in law enforcement. And so she said, I feel like one of these days he's going to kill me. And I said, oh, that's ridiculous. He's not going to kill you. And she said, yeah, he knows how to kill people. He knows how people kill other people and get away with it. And I said, oh, no, that's not going to happen. I know the two of you, and that's not going to happen. She said, and that's why I don't go out in a boat with him. They have a boat. about a 20-footer or so. He and I used to go out fishing together. So she said, that's why I don't go out fishing. I don't go on the boat with him. I said, what do you mean? She says, because it would be rather easy for him to push me over the side and drown me. So that's how bad her negative thought. By the way, they're still married today, and I don't know how they are married. I mean, it's unbelievable. Anyway, physical side effects: sleep and appetite disturbances. They're both of them are way, way, way overweight. I would venture to say they're both over 300 pounds apiece. And like I said, she was at one point in time a very beautiful woman. Other symptoms of a full cup of your emotions getting to the point, the hurt and the anger getting to the point, is loss of concentration, loss of energy, escapism into work, drugs, infidelity, pornography, etc. In other words, basically addictions. For the first 8 years of our marriage, probably maybe only 5 years of, I had been an alcoholic. Having lived in Germany for 8 years, I drank a lot of stuff over there. And when I came back a few years later, I got married. And so during that whole time, I was drinking still. And for the first 5 years, I was drinking. And then suddenly, I just felt like I had to stop. And because I'm the kind of person that although I've been addicted to practically everything out there, drugs, alcohol, sex, pornography, gambling, every time I feel like I'm at that point, I've talked to myself and said, I don't like the fact that that has control over me. And I've stopped it. I stopped smoking from one day to the next. I stopped drinking from one day to the next. I stopped pornography from one day to the next. It wasn't all at the same time. It was just individually periods of time where I quit because I said, that's enough. But one of my biggest ones that continued for a long, long time was work. Carla and I, as I told you before, we didn't get along for 20 years. And so for those first 20 years of our marriage, my work was important to me. I would not come home. I would probably work an average of 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I just, because whenever I went home, it was arguments. Whenever I went home, it was gripe, gripe, gripe. Whenever I went home, we would get in an argument and I'd walk out the door and go back to work. So work was a big one for me, and something that you don't normally think of as something that can be causing damage, but it can. It's very important to watch your workload and realize that this is causing some friction. Other symptoms: depressed mood, impatience, quick temper. That was another one of mine. Controlling behavior, obsessive compulsive thinking and doing, can be very, very damaging. Before we move on and talk about something else in this chapter, I want to make one observance about this emotional capacity cup. Two observances. The first one is, notice anger and resentment are on the second rung up. How fast, when you're angry, does the anger occur? How fast does it happen? Very fast, right? You get angry just like that. And typically we get angry because what happened? The bottom rung. We were hurt by something our partner said or did. We were saddened by something our partner did or said, or we were disappointed by something our partner said or did. Okay, so here is a very good tool if you have any kind of anger problem whatsoever, I mean, it can be just minor, okay, is to give your partner, well, say to your partner, look, I know at times I've had anger problems. And so I give you permission to say to me the following thing. Okay, now these words are very important. When you got angry, perhaps what happened, your partner says, you're mad, you're angry at me right now. And you said, no, I'm not. Okay, very common defense. No, I'm not. I'm not angry. Well, you're yelling at me. Well, I'm not angry. Okay. But if you give your partner permission to say to you the following, it appears to me that you are upset with me for some reason. Are you hurt, saddened, or disappointment about something? Okay. It appears to me, you're not saying you're angry. It appears to me that you are upset. If you say that instead of you're angry, it's going to help. Second thing is going to help is because you've given your partner your partner's been given permission to say that to you, you can't do much about it except stop and think. Okay, wait a minute. She's right or he's right. Why am I angry? I'm angry because I was hurt about this thing that you said or this thing that you did. I'm disappointed. I'm saddened. Okay. So you can stop the anger a lot faster if you use that phrase. Again, the phrase is, it appears to me as though you're upset with me. Is there anything that I did to make you, to hurt you, sadden you, or disappoint you? Okay. Very, very important. Okay. Now, how long have you guys been together, Matt and Beth?
Um,
Married for a year and a half and been dating for about 5 years now.
So you've been together for 5 years total.
Yep, total.
And Logan and Megan, how many?
8 years.
8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan and Tara?
Married for like 6 months, dating for about 5 years.
Okay. So a few years in everybody's case. Okay. Now I would venture to say that life has not always been beautiful. There have been arguments. There have been heavy discussions. There have been times when you just don't want to talk to one another. Okay. So what has happened is that you've been hurt, you've been saddened, or you're disappointment, and that can grow and grow and grow and get worse. So what we're going to do in chapters 3 and 4 is the following. In chapter 3, we're going to take a look at how have I been hurt and how have I hurt you. And then in chapter 4, we're going to learn how to get rid of those hurts, because I would venture to say that some of those hurts are still lingering, especially because you guys have been together for such a long period of time. 1 or 2 years, maybe not so much, but 5 to 8, yeah, I would venture to say there are some lingering hurts. And here's a good indicator. Have you ever got into an argument and your partner has started bringing up old things, old hurts? It's very common. Your partner brings up old hurts, and the next thing you know, it's back and forth, and then that's when you start throwing old hurts back in his or her face too. Okay, so what we want to do is get rid of those old hurts. There is in the Bible a very good verse. There's lots of good verses in the Bible, and they're basically good principles. Okay, so they're probably in every religious book out there. This principle, first of all, one that's in almost probably every spiritual book out there, every religion, is to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In other words, treat people with respect and love, because that's how you want to be treated. The one that I'm thinking of right now is it's in the book of John, when it says that Jesus says, I come to give you abundant life. Happy, abundant, wonderful life. Okay? Now, abundant, wonderful, beautiful life cannot happen if you've got crud from the past holding you back, or if you've got anxiety about the future holding you back. So what we need to do is get you guys into the present, not in the past and not in the future. We're going to get you into the present through chapters 3 and 4. So if you take a look at page 23, bottom of the page, next to the last paragraph, what we need to do is get those emotional cups emptied. So the first step to emptying the negative emotions of a marital relationship is to identify our specific hurts. Next page, bottom of the page, 24. It says Healing Marital Hurts Worksheet number 1. And then on page 26, here, Healing Marital Hurts Worksheet number 2. Okay? Go back to page 24. Healing Marital Hurts Worksheet number 1. Excuse me. Have you ever had a canker sore on your tongue and it's hard to talk? That's where I'm at right now. I got a canker sore on the side of my tongue. Healing Marital Hurts Worksheet number 1. Think about all the ways in which you have hurt your spouse or partner and your marriage or your relationship. Okay? Think back to your dating days. I want you to write in there, if you've got a pencil even, think back to the day you
We lost him.
hurt them. And yeah, it's why did you keep going, you know? Well, it got better, I guess. And I was counseling a couple recently, by the way, on that same line, where I'm trying. One of the things that I do when I counsel couples is to not let them sit there and complain about their partner. It does absolutely no good. What I like to do is to get couples to realize the good in their partner and to dwell on that and not on the bad. So anyway, this one couple, in the middle of the counseling session, he starts to tell me, well, you know, this is all a waste of time because it all goes back to the night we got married. I said, okay, well, let's briefly talk about that and then we can get back to what we were doing. And he said, yeah, he said, I wanted to go have our honeymoon and she wanted to party. And so guess what? She stayed there and I went back to our hotel. So they didn't have much of a honeymoon. And it's been 20 years now that he has been holding on to that night as a very negative thing in their relationship. So again, think all the ways back to your dating days, the day you met, your engagement, your early marriage, and think about, now these words are going to help you to remember some of the things you did that hurt your spouse or your relationship. Think about ways that you were selfish. Think about ways that you were critical. Think about ways that you were insensitive. Think about ways that you were disrespectful, verbally abusive, unsupportive, ungrateful, unfaithful, rejecting, or unforgiving. Now, my suggestion would be take all those words at the top of a piece of paper, write them at the top of the piece of paper, and then think about selfish. Yeah, was I ever selfish? Yes, I was selfish. And I can just jot a little note, German friends, and that will help me to remember the fact that when my wife and I got married in February, I was a teacher, and we didn't have time to go on a honeymoon. So when June arrived, we got to go on a honeymoon. It was kind of a distraction because German friends of mine were coming from Germany, and they wanted to go see Yellowstone, the coast of Washington, Oregon, California, and so I asked Carla. I said, "Is it okay with you if we do that, and maybe we'll have another honeymoon just for the two of us at some other time?" She said, "Okay." So, but that did not turn out good because I was selfishly trying to show my German friends a good time and ignoring my wife, which was not a good thing. So if you just have at the top of the piece of paper, selfish, critical, insensitive, disrespectful, those words, they will help you to remember some of the things perhaps that you have done. Now, here's a very important point. Even though, well, let me ask a question. Of all of you, even though you had something that hurt you or saddened you or disappointed you, and your partner apologized, have you ever, well, just one time, thought that was not a very sincere apology? I would venture to say that almost all of you have felt that way. Especially the ladies have probably felt that way at some point in time, okay? So, when you're writing this list, if you think of something that was, let's say, for example, disrespectful, and you apologize for it, I still want you to write it down because your partner still may be holding on to that. Okay? Another very important point. That's very important point number one. Important point number two is if your partner, let's say, said that you were verbally abusive at some point in time, and you didn't think you were, you need to write it down. You need to write that incident down. Let me give you an example of a time when I didn't think I did anything wrong. We have a practice at our church. When you come in the door, or when I greet you at your rehearsal and wedding day, I hug you. Right, Matt? Right, Tara? Beth, Matt? I hug you. Guys may not necessarily like that, but that's what happens. I hug you. I'm a hugger. I like to hug people. So every Sunday morning in our church, I'm out front hugging people, greeting them as they come to church. Okay. One lady who comes in the door of our church, my wife Carla, thought she had this feeling that this lady had intentions towards me, that she tried to hug me a little bit too long. Okay? You get the picture? So when Carla brings up that point to me and asks me not to hug this person, this woman, ever again, I argue with her because I don't think that I've done anything wrong. I have no intentions towards her. I do not think that I've hugged her too long. I have a wife that I love. She has a husband that I know she loves. And so I didn't do anything wrong. No, Carla wants me to stop being myself. Well, I'm not going to stop being myself. That's my personality. So after the third time of Carla bringing this up, I finally realize the following. Even though I felt like I was not doing anything wrong, I was, because I was not taking my wife's hurt feelings into consideration. Let's put each one of you in this situation, okay? Matt, you feel like this friend of yours is being a little bit too friendly towards Elizabeth. Or Megan, you feel like Logan's being a little bit too flirtatious with that woman over there. Or Tara, Ryan's being a little bit too friendly with that woman. Okay? You've got feelings. Your feelings of jealousy, your feelings of hurt. Do those hurt feelings need to be addressed? Does those feelings of jealousy need to be addressed, or just automatically say, "Oh, come on, Tara. You know I love you and I don't care for that woman." Or, "Come on, Megan. Quit making a mountain out of a molehill." Okay? Feelings need to be addressed. And so write them down. If you can remember hurts for which you apologized, write them down. Hurts for which you did not apologize, write them down. Hurts for which you feel like you did not do anything wrong, write them down. Any comments about any of that? I was expecting at least one of the guys to disagree with me. Nobody's going to disagree with me, huh?
Nope.
At least they don't want to voice it in front of their woman. Okay, so for me to rationalize my behavior in front of Carla did no good. Absolutely no good. Okay, we're going to talk about that more in the future in another chapter. But for now, just realize if a hurt is brought up and you try to rationalize your way out of it, it's not going to do you a bit of good. Right, ladies? Okay, so that's Healing Marital Hurts worksheet, where you write down everything that you've ever done that has hurt you, your partner, or your relationship. Okay? Healing Marital Hurts worksheet on page 26 says identify the ways in which you and your relationship have been hurt by your partner. You will want to be sure these lists start with feeling statements. Remember, feeling statements? I feel hurt. I feel rejected. I feel jealous. I feel disappointed. Look at the exercise or the examples there. I felt hurt and rejected when you pulled away from me. I felt unsupported and unappreciated when you didn't notice me. I haven't gotten over the fact that you lied to me. I felt rejected when you went out with the other guys. Okay? I felt. That's how each one of your statements is going to, on this list, is going to start. Now, once you write Notice that each one of those statements is a short, basically fairly short sentence. It is not a paragraph. In other words, you're not going to write, I felt hurt and rejected when you pulled away from me the other night in bed. And you're going to go on and on and on and on and on and explain yourself. No, you're not going to do that. Simple, straightforward sentence. I felt rejected when you did this. I felt disappointed when you did this. Okay? Now, and again, there you're going to include past and present hurts, hurts for which your partner apologized, hurts for which you felt there was no resolve. And so now I will ask you I'll ask you all a question, and hold up one finger or two fingers, okay? Which list, number 1 or number 2, do you think is going to be the hardest for you to write? In other words, is it going to be number 1, the things that you did? Or is it going to be number 2, the things that your partner did to you? Which one do you think is going to be the hardest one for you to write? One finger? Two, the things your partner did.
I think they'll both be hard.
What's that?
I think they'll both be hard.
They will be hard. Yeah, they will be hard. And so it's very important for you to start on them as soon as you can, and don't procrastinate and wait until the last minute. The first time I did this with my wife, I procrastinated, okay? And I didn't do a very good job. The second time we went through the class, and the reason we did was because we felt like we didn't do a good job the first time around. The second time we went through the class, I had a clipboard, and I was driving from a western suburb in Chicago to downtown Chicago. It took me an hour to get there every day. And so I had this clipboard sitting beside me so that I would be thinking as I was commuting. And whenever I got to a place where it was dead stop, I would jot down a note. And so I had various ways of helping myself remember so that I would do a decent job of making these lists. Now let's put this into perspective here. If you have a bunch of things that have been bothering you over the years, you are going to now be able to write them down, and in a very controlled, wonderful atmosphere, which might be a little emotional, but not angry. In chapter 4, you're going to be able to share them with one another and ask for forgiveness for them in chapter 4. So it is, like I said before, it's a very difficult chapters 3 and 4, but it's also a very refreshing, and it's like when you get through it, you're going to get to the end, you're going to say, wow, that was tough, but it sure was worth it. Now, I want you to realize that when Carla and I took this class the first time, we'd been married for 20 years. Second time, we'd been married for 21 years. So we had a lot more things to write down than you guys will ever write down. In fact, I had 4 pages, single-spaced, typed single-spaced things that Carla had done that hurt me. That was an easy one to write. The hard one for me was to realize what had I done to Carla. But once I started thinking about it, I started thinking something that helped me was those words, selfish, unsupportive, etc. The other thing that helped me was thinking about specific incidences in our life. Um, we went to San Francisco one time, bad day. Yellowstone, bad days. Twin Lakes, California, bad days. So I started thinking about specific incidences. I started thinking about people we've gone out with. We went out with Bob and Kathy, bad night. Okay. I started thinking about this also helped me. What are some of the things that Carla complains about me? Impatience was the number one thing that she really disliked about me. My impatience, and it was bad. It was really bad. I mean, it was 3-4 times a day I'd get mad at her. She'd say something and I'd blow up, get mad, run out of the house or whatever. Very immature, but it happened, and something that I'm not proud of. But after 20 years of marriage, at least I learned my lesson and I turned myself around, and I'm a whole lot better now. So it's, I think, perhaps for me to tell you that it was very, very difficult for me after 20 years of marriage. It's not going to be that hard for you. Okay? It's going to be hard, but you will not, if you do not do a decent, conscientious job of writing these 2 lists, it's going to be very evident to your partner. It can be something that is, let's put it this way. If you don't resolve some of the past hurts, the hurts can continue to hurt. Okay? You need to get rid of them. I don't think that I said this at either one of your weddings, Ryan, Tara, Beth, and Matt, but it's something that I use quite a bit now during weddings, and that is that something that I heard, and that is that if you are unforgiving about something, it's like drinking poison and expecting your partner to die. You're drinking the poison, expecting your partner to die. That's how much unforgiveness hurts you. It eats away at you. It seethes away at you. It causes you to not talk to your partner, which causes damage. You need to communicate with one another in a loving, honest, open, vulnerable way. And so this is the beginning of going to be doing that. Now, last thing I need to say to you tonight is during your marriage staff meeting, you are not going to show these lists or talk about these lists to one another this week. Okay? I need to tell you how to do it so that next week you'll be able to do it in an appropriate, wonderful way. Okay? Got it? Everybody say yes. Say, okay, got it. Got it. Okay, you're not going to share your list. And another thing, Logan, you're not going to cheat and you're not going to look at Megan's list, okay?
Got it.
Got it. Okay. No cheating. No looking at your partner's list. Okay. Any thoughts? Any questions? Are you apprehensive about this?
Yeah.
No? Good. Beth says no. How about you, Tara? Are you apprehensive? No? Good for you. It's going to be good. hard, but it's going to be good. Do you trust me when I say it's going to be good? Would I tell you any differently? I married you,
That's true.
and I'm going to marry you too, Logan and Megan. Trust me. It's going to be good. Do it. Very conscientiously write your list. Okay?
Okay.
Have a good week. If you have any questions, I'm always here. Give me a call, give me a text, give me an email, whatever. I'm here for you. Okay? Good night.
All right, have a good week.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.